Hi guys, it's Debbie, and today I would like to speak about British humour within cinema, TV and series. This is a topic I have had on my mind for a very long time, but which I decided to bring up now that I am in the United States, where I have been able to draw some comparisons with American humour. Before moving on to the general topic, I would quickly like to bring up a recent example of a British black comedy series, The End of the Effin' World. This series portrays 17-year-old Jack, which believes he may be a psychopath and which starts to consider the idea of murdering somebody. His thoughts soon lead him to choosing Alyssa, a rebellious teen with a whole bunch of problems for her own. Jack and Alyssa start dating, but soon their two chaotic personalities combined to become an equation for trouble, and they get caught up in an absurd string of dark and hilarious events. One of this series' main goals is to catch the viewer completely unprepared. Jack and Alyssa's personality, their attitude, their trouble, their families are so unexpected that they could appear nearly rude and out of context. The story is a succession of absurd events, but conveyed in a totally deadpan serious manner. Even the funniest lines are delivered without even the twitch of the mouth, just with a sarcastic negative point of view. And these are some of the most typical features of British dark humour, which tends to be very dry, satirical, sarcastic. The End of the Effin' World can be considered a bit on the limit because it is black comedy, and it also covers some other topics such as death, abuse, suicide, so it's not a general example of British humour, but it does fit in the general scheme of making bitter fun of the absurdity of everyday reality. In British comedies, you will hardly ever find that American Pie, Why Him, Bad Mums, Hangover, 40-year-old virgin kind of humour. The kind of jokes which are funny because they are embarrassing and predictable. For example, by making use of physical comedy, full nudity, embarrassing bodily functions, fistfights, screams. Instead, if we take a look at British comedy such as the Cornetto trilogy, Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz, The World's End, The Boat That Rocked, Submarine, teenage shows and films such as Skins or Bend It Like Beckham, kids films like Wallace and Gromit, shows Outnumbered, Little Britain, Miranda, the lines tend to be more satirical. The character's personal space is more private. The situations may be absurd, take for example Mr. Bean, but still within a more down-to-earth and realistic environment. We meet figures making fun of everyday life, of politics. They even end up complaining about things such as holidays. They often live what they consider somewhat sad lives and cover unsatisfactory work positions, which they put up with their daily dose of cynicism. They make fun of stereotypes. Some of them are humanly eccentric. They all have a hint of what they believe is failure in their lives. In Hot Fuzz, Simon Pegg plays a policeman whose successful career in London abruptly changes when he is sent off to the muddy English countryside, where a succession of unlikely and hilarious misunderstandings and failures takes place. But everything is dead serious, as if this absurdity was normal. To better understand the distinction between Hollywood humour and British humour, we can compare works such as Bridesmaids, Sex and the City and Bridget Jones. The slight tone of humour, but more on the sarcastic side, tends to always be present in British products, regardless of the genre or themes. For example, even a show like Top Gear, which covered the topic of cars, always ended up being packed with comedy. Trainspotting, a drama film about heavy drugs, had a few characters which could have been taken from the audience with a laugh. Even Harry Potter is rich in scenes in which characters snap back with hilarious lines. The same goes for Sherlock, which is in no way a comedy, but which has such a dry, witty sarcasm that we just end up cracking up laughing anyway. If you've read any of Roald Dahl's works, which for example include Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, Matilda, you can often meet characters which reply with snarky comments. So the difference between the two different approaches to comedy over the ocean lies in the different approach Brits and Americans have to life in general. In the American culture, people tend to be more open, more talkative, but they are more optimistic about their life and dreams. This doesn't mean that everybody in the United States wakes up in the morning waving the American flag ready to become the next billionaire, but as comedian Ricky Gervais said, they don't hide their hopes and fears, they applaud ambition and openly reward success. As British actor Simon Pegg, which we were speaking about earlier, says, Americans are not embarrassed by their emotions, they clap louder, cheer harder and empathise more unconditionally. We just aren't inclined to give that much of ourselves away. So even in the toughest situations and setups a comedy sketch might present, there is always an optimistic tone to the work, while with the same situation in a British comedy, there would be more irony and cynicism. Again, quoting Gervais, Brits are more comfortable with life's losers. Brits almost expect doom and gloom, and a happy ending is an unexpected joy. America rewards upfront, on your sleeve niceness. A perceived wicked streak is somewhat frowned upon. An American comedy fits the description of a happy, bright comedy with the goal of making the viewers cheer on the characters. If you saw the trailer for the new Jumanji film, for how much you might not even want to conceive its existence after its 90s predecessor, it still makes your mouth twitch. You know it's funny. I think this is the same reason for which many people didn't feel confident in appreciating Colossal with Anne Hathaway. It was very dark, but at the same time very amusing, and no one could place their finger on exactly what was so funny about it. It was so different from other similar concepts. Constance Rourke, an author specialised in American popular culture, argues that the American liking for the bright, loud type of comedy can be traced back to one original character, the Yankee, which was your typical comedy figure you would laugh at. A mischievous practical joker, which would create embarrassing situations that would generate roaring laughters. While speaking of British humour instead, the Debrett's Guide to British Social Skills, Etiquette and Style underlines the concept of understatement and of how it is a recurrent feature in the British society in general. According to the Debretts, understatement includes a refusal to be effusive, overdramatic, emphatic or didactic, and when speaking directly about comedy, it uses the description unexpectedly low-key response to a dramatic crisis, a situation which perfectly describes all the recurring features I was speaking about earlier. A comedic sketch in Britain will never develop into a scene out of fistfight, while it might involve two characters discussing about a seemingly unimportant situation. And the difference is not in the politeness of the situation, which in reality can be ridden with swearing and insults. Shakespeare used to write the most eloquent insults back in his time. Her face, nothing like so clean kept, for why she sweats, a man may go over her shoes with the grime of it. A sentence which over the years translates to Jack and Alyssa's attitude in The End of the Effing World. So understatement is not a synonym for good manners. British comedy can be very rude. There is a lot of swearing, it's not all polite. But the way it is conveyed, the deadpan effect, not letting anybody know when a joke is about to be cracked, that's the difference. The people described tend to believe there is a hint of failure in what they do, but still they don't admit it, or deep down they know it isn't true. The comedy in American films is deliberately obvious. We prepare to laugh even before the joke has been delivered. In Bad Mums, we laugh at the film's premise of the main character getting frustrated, spilling food over herself, receiving a rude attitude by everybody surrounding her. But everything is set in a way that we know it is funny and we know there's a bright side at the end. While with British irony, everything tends to be more awkward, personal, silent, and when this type of attitude is exaggerated and brought on screen, it becomes a serious and sarcastic laugh on everyday life. In Submarine, which by the way is not even a comedy, we laugh at the main character's soliloquies about daily things such as his parents spoiling the surprise of what they gave each other as gifts. On an American comedy show, the same situation would be loudly emphasized. There would be a big funny joke about it. The character's personal space bubbles would be shared with others. There would be physical contact, a big loud laugh. I don't think one type of humor is better than the other. It's just a reflection of the society it belongs to and to which it pleases. I can't imagine a comedy with Stephen Fry ending up in the same way as We Are the Millers. But at the same time, I could never imagine Eddie Murphy and Amy Schumer eating Maltesers and making themselves a cup of tea while complaining because their friends didn't invite them to the Christmas office party. But if you reverse the accents and the background, it suddenly makes more sense. But in general, comedy makes sense because the customers that want to enjoy it are looking to laugh at something relatable in their own personal lives. For example, in Italy, because of decades of a troubled political situation, many comedies tend to have a deep political tendency. And because the culture has southern Mediterranean connotations, the characters tend to be very loud, over-friendly. There's the stereotype of the Italian mother, the police, of the traffic. This, for example, would make no sense in Sweden. And also always remember that this is not a rule of thumb. A series of unfortunate events, Lady Bird, Meet the Parents, The Fundamentals of Caring, or even The Simpsons, which are all American products, have many elements which would fit the encyclopedic description of British humour. Let me know what you think about this topic with a comment here below. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to subscribe for more related content and much more, and I'll see you soon. Bye!